Welcome to Bears Country Podcast on Barroom Network. We've got Dan Aquire joining us soon. He's running a little bit late. And we have Chris Watts all the way from across the pond. He's going to be joining us tonight. But before we get to that, I just wanted to talk about that play. That play is the play that pissed me off the most of that entire game. And I'm sure that you all probably feel the same way. So we can get into that in a minute. Kitty, let's kick this off.
Bears Country. Where is it? It's in your man cave. Your home. Your car. Your local bar. Your city. State. It's across the world. It's in your heart. And it's here. The Bears Country Podcast.
Everyone thought we were going to get our ass kicked in this game. It looked like we were going to get our ass kicked in this game in the beginning of it when we were down 21-3. But the Bears came back and they made a game of it. And it came all the way down to that last play when the Bears were driving the ball, and it looked like Justin Fields was going to get that comeback game that he deserves. And it got washed away with a double agent wide receiver from the Minnesota Vikings who decided to give the ball back to them so that they could win the game. That's how I'm taking it. So I think we need to immediately cut Amir Smith-Marset. He already had another mishap in the game that cost Justin Fields 60-something yard touchdown run. So, I don't know. I'm not saying, cut the guy. I'm just kidding. But it's what an unfortunate mishap in your first game of real game action. And you have that end up happening to you. You have a block in the back on a long Justin Fields touchdown run. You have a strip fumble to end the game with plenty of time left with them to win it. And it's just a mind-boggling end to the game that I thought we were going to win. At the end there, I really thought we were going to come back and win that game. Well, we have Dan Aquire is going to be joining us here shortly, and he's running a little bit late. So we also have our guest, Chris Watts, from across the pond. He was going to be joining us a little bit later, but rather than me just sit here and talk to myself, I figured let's bring on Chris a little bit sooner than we were going to, and we can get his take of this game from what he thought across the pond. So let's bring on Chris Watts. Can you give me an accent? Can you talk like me?
Can I talk like you? I don't know. Yeah. Can I talk like you, Dan?
There you go. Oh, you got it.
Yeah, Dan.
I love
it, I can talk like you, mate. I can talk like you. It's no problem.
I knew you were Kermit the Frog impersonation.
Yeah. But I always turn into sort of like, some mafia. I always want to go, hey, Tony, hey. Why don't you try and do a Yorkshire accent, Dan?
Well, I was going to say, whenever I get around, like people talking with an accent like this, I just can't help myself but to talk like them. I could literally sit here and talk to you like this all day.
Wow, that was more like a Cockney sort of London accent going on there, mate. You were a bit like Mary Poppins. That guy's a fucking wanker, mate.
From all the way over across the pond. Chris Watts, thanks for joining us. Hope I got my accent right this time. I'm adding some fucking Scottish to that. What the fuck am I doing?
You actually sounded slightly Jamaican then, Dan. That were atrocious, mate. But no, I'm good, mate. Hello to you, Dan. Hello to Kitty. First time I've had a chance to speak to Kitty, so hello to both of you.
Thank you very much for coming on and joining us again, Chris. It's always great to talk to you. I'm just fascinated by the Bears fandom across the sea, and it's always just awesome to talk to you because we gain so much more perspective from it, you know?
Well, we are sort of known as being intelligent people as English, sort of. So any time you want me on the show in the future, just give me a shout, mate, because I love watching the show. You're doing a great job, and obviously you got Dan on as well, who's one of my favourites. So no, it's going to be a blast, mate.
I appreciate that, Chris. It's last time we had you on Bears Country Podcast, it was a blast. Just learning how you taught us about how the '85 Bears were basically what brought the NFL to Europe, and that was a fascinating conversation to have with you. It was also fascinating for us to do our bad accents part 1, because I would like to try that again with you later if you're okay with that.
Of course I am, mate. You can use and abuse me as much as you want, Dan.
We can have I get used and abused too. I'm terrible. I'm trying to work on it. One of these days, by part 10, I'll have it right.
Yeah. Let's hope so, mate, because you are terrible at the moment.
So, Chris, yesterday's game, I mean, I think pretty much the majority of us thought we were going to lose that game. And I think the majority of us probably thought we were going to win that or lose that game by a lot more. It wasn't going to be as exciting a game as it ended up turning into. What do you think about the game?
I felt exactly like you just described, really, Dan. I mean, especially after the first half, I was thinking, this is a regression rather than moving forward. When we were down 21-3 and Kirk Cousins had broken the Minnesota's passing record for completed consecutive passes. I think he got 17. And apart from that Mooney catch in the first half, I was there with my head in my hands going, what the fuck is going on? But then the second half, they must have made some serious adjustments at second half. And Justin Fields, that's the best I've ever seen him play in a Chicago Bears uniform. He just looked like the light just sort of flicked on, and he was an absolute monster in the second half. So I was so sort of happy for him, but obviously I was gutted that we lost. And obviously that number 17 cost us the game, really. I mean, it cost us that touchdown by Fields, and then at the end when he didn't go out of bounds, where he could have easily gone out of bounds, and there was about a minute left on the clock as well. I was absolutely gutted. But to say we came back from such a large deficit to nearly winning a game, and at one point we was in the lead as well, I was absolutely well proud of the team. I'm not one of these people who sort of gives that award just for turning up, but I just think it showed a lot of character of the team. And Justin Fields, he just looked so poised in the second half, and the play calling was a lot better for him. They weren't leaving him with massive third and longs to try and do an exceptional pass. I was gutted. I'm gutted we lost, but I think there's a lot of positives to take out of the performance in the second half. I feel a lot better than I did do after the Giants game. I mean, that was just so depressing. Overall, sad that we lost, but I think surely people have got to see the positives now about Justin Fields. I've seen some of the comments in social media, and people just need to chill out a bit, man, and see the bigger picture. We're on about this on the Barfly Tailgate show on Sunday about people just got to look at the bigger picture. Things can't change overnight. It's I know people like instant gratification these days, but it don't work in sport, and it don't really work in any business. So sad that we lost, but the second half performance blew me away.
I know I'm right there with you. the beginning of the game was just almost hard to watch. And in fact, I was kind of doing other things while I was watching it, and just watching Dalvin Cook run the ball down our throats, and they're just passing the ball to Justin Jefferson. It's like my favorite play in Madden that you got the two wide receivers that go out about 15 yards and cut to the sidelines, and you got like the two guys that cut to the center. You can always get one of those guys on that nice out if you time it perfectly. It's like they were doing it over and over and over again, like the Giants were last week in that bootleg. They found that sweet spot and they kept using it. And I was getting really disheartened by it. And I had other stuff to do, so I was just trying to do it while I was watching the game. And then all of a sudden, wow, start coming back, and it's like, okay, now I'm into this game 100%, like sitting down with my eyes on this, because there's something that's going to happen in this game. And I remember at one point thinking, let me know if you have this same feeling, because I have it a lot during games where you feel that turnover coming. You feel the other team just wants to give it away. And I kept saying, Kirk Cousins, he's going to throw an interception here soon. I just feel it. I feel like he wants to give the ball away. And sure enough, he throws an interception. Bears are back in the game. And we get all the way down to that final play where the double agent gives it back to Minnesota to win. And it just broke my heart, just the same as you. I mean, it's my goodness.
It's sort of typical Chicago Bears, isn't it, really? That last sort of minute. But the thing what I know, I agree with everything what you just said then, Dan. The thing is, you could really feel the momentum change. It was like two boxes where we had the Vikings on the ropes, and they were trying to get away from our body blows, and you could see they were absolutely like shell shocked. Sorry. By the sort of middle of the third quarter, because we just came out, we were just pounding them. So I've never felt so happy after a loss, to be honest with you. It's just so fucking weird, man. I'm absolutely buzzing after the game, and I kept thinking, but we've lost, and I kept going, yeah, but it feels like Justin Field has seen the light, and and the light bulbs clicked, and it shows what could happen in the future for us. So a loss is a loss, but I think people have got to take a lot more positives out of the game than what I've been reading on social media.
And looks like we have Dan Aquire is joining the show. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm so sorry that I was late, but like I said, I was in a meeting, and one of the things that we had to discuss was the Friday night high school game that we cover has been moved to Thursday. So great. I'll be producing a game while the Bears are playing, which blows ass. But nevertheless, I'll at least have it on my phone at that time. But I'm here. Again, I apologize. It's not like I was being disciplined or something, but they needed me in this meeting to talk about what we're going to do on air and stuff like that. So I apologize.
Hey, Dan, we're just happy you can join us. Thanks for joining us.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I love you, Chris. I'm glad to see you or talk to you as well.
How are you? Yeah, good to speak to you, Dan. It's always a blast when we get together, mate.
Yes, sir.
I can't believe you were late, because I'm only like 3,000 miles at the other side of the world, and I'm on time, brother.
Truth. Yeah, what is it like? Was it 3 a.m. there? 2 a.m.?
It's about nearly 1:30 in the morning.
Ah, yeah. Well, we appreciate your dedication. That's for sure.
Oh, mate. Any time's a chance to talk Bears with you boys, mate. I'd get up at 3 in the morning, regardless. It doesn't bother me, mate. Any opportunity to speak to you boys, bring it on.
You're such a champ, Chris. Thank you so much.
Is Cliff out still because of the hurricane?
Yeah, Cliff's out, but he was in chat. Yeah, he's in chat. He says he has a good enough connection on his phone to be able to talk in chat, but not enough to be able to join us on the show. So hotspot, thank you. Cliff, we miss you. Hope you get that internet going soon. Hop back on with us.
I hope he and his family are well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they seem to be doing okay. It's just they don't have their internet. So, and I think he said he might have lost a couple of cars to the hurricane. So, I mean, that's it's better than losing your house. So, but
True.
I'm not going to speak for him. We'll let him talk when he comes back on the show when he gets back. Cliff, we miss you. We can't wait for you to come back on the show with your Cliff Notes. We're not. In fact, I didn't even attempt to do the Cliff Notes tonight because I was just too busy doing other things. They're kind of my version of Cliff Notes. So we do have like some stats we're going to pull up, but we do miss you, Cliff, and your Cliff Notes. So we'll see you soon, buddy. Dan, we were just talking about that. I mean, the game was going. The beginning of the game seemed like the same old, and then that second half defense took over again, and they didn't allow that first touchdown until the very end of the game, and it seemed like we were going to come back and win that game. The momentum felt that way, and we were just talking about. Have you ever had this, Dan, where you just feel that they're going to turn the ball over soon kind of feeling? I had that myself in the game. Like, Cousins is going to throw an interception soon. They're going to fumble. Something's going to happen. We're going to get this ball back. I feel that. Do you ever feel that, Dan?
Yeah, it was the complete opposite of the New York game the week before, where you just had this feeling, this frustration that nothing we were doing was working. And we had no momentum at all. And it just felt like, God, we're not going to win this game. And you keep thinking something's going to happen. There's got to be a chance for us to win this game because the Giants aren't any good. But then again, they're 4-1 now and they've beaten Green Bay. But to answer your question, conversely, against Minnesota, it felt like, man, this game's ours now. Like, Justin he's in a rhythm, and finally he's got some fluidity. The offense is moving. We just need the defense to get one stop, just one fucking stop. Come on. You give up all those touchdowns in the first half, and we still got you back in the game. Get us a stop. But no, they let Cousins go on a drive for like 7 minutes, pick up 3 or 4 third downs. It was so demoralizing. And even so, Fields was still driving us to potentially tie the game once more. So I felt like if there's not a fumble there, the Bears are going to tie it for sure.
And all he had to do was go out of bounds.
And the penalty on Fields' touchdown was called on him too. Although I will say that was a bullshit penalty. And the corner threw his arms like he was, being accosted by someone with a weapon. I mean, it was complete acting. It was like, you remember I'm sure you watched the NBA back in the day. Like, for years, Vlade Divac was thought of as the most serial flopper in the league, where he was constantly rotating over. And then, oh God, I can't stand now because of this other man's power or whatever, which was bullshit. That's the way it felt. Like, that was a flop. That was a flop. And I can't believe they threw that flag there. Fields should have scored. And if he does, I don't think we lose.
I don't think we lose either.
No, I think we would have definitely won. It reminded me of a soccer player, because that's what they do to try and get a free kick on a penalty, which absolutely drives me insane, even though I hate soccer. And I think you're dead right, Dan. I mean, that dude basically cost us the game, I think. I think if that touchdown would have stood with Fields, I think we had him on the ropes then, and it would have been a matter of finishing the job then. So yeah, I just feel exactly like you two boys. I was so gutted, but like I said it's really hard because you're both called Dan, so I'm gonna have to say Mr. Shorty and Dan, aren't I? So Mr. Shorty and myself, we chatting before, and I don't think I've ever felt so happy after a loss, because it was just sort of like you just said, Dan. It was like, compared to last week's game against the Giants, it was so frustrating and miserable to watch. But this time, with the comeback in the second half, I felt a lot more positive after that.
Right, at least you had some hope at the end of the game there, and you didn't get that in the Giants game, and then the hope is just dashed by just this. Oh, God,
it happened so quickly that I kept thinking, is there a chance his knee was down? Show the replay. I'm not sure that it's over yet. And damn, I mean, if he had held on until a half more second, he would have been down.
And even if they had back to the touchdown that Justin Fields ran into the end zone and they called the penalty on Marset. If that touchdown stood, and even if the Giants did score again, the Bears would have been just trying to get into field goal position. And maybe that would have caused Marset to actually run out of bounds. I don't know. Maybe they told him to not run out of bounds.
You know what I think that was?
Press conference.
I don't want to try to speak for him, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to speak for him. That's his former team, man. They cut him, and he did well. He did okay last year. I mean, he had a game against the Bears where he did superbly. I think the kid's just trying to make a play. He's like, you're thinking I'm going out of bounds, or I'm going to move this cut. I'm going to cut on you, and I'm going to go all the way. I think he's just trying too hard, and I know it looks so bad when you combine that with the penalty. But again, I thought that was a flop too. So I'm not trying to give him a pass, but at the same time, I don't want him cut. Like if you told me Dante Pettis was cut today, I would cheer that. I mean, the guy's dropped like 12 straight passes since catching the one touchdown against San Francisco.
Right.
He's a bum.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd cut him today.
He is a bum. I would have cut him halfway through the bloody game. You were absolutely terrible.
Where is Velus Jones, guys? Where's the plays designed for him?
I wanted to comment on that too. I don't want to interrupt your thunder, but with Velus Jones, at what point in our lives, because I presume we've all watched football for years, when did the end around become a touchdown pass? That's a running play. Why? I mean, good. I'm glad Fields got a touchdown for it, but that's a handoff. Why is that a pass? Like, what year did that become a pass? That's a fucking end around.
Isn't it just because he flicked the ball into the air as he was coming to it? But that's what made it a pass.
It's
he didn't actually put it right there. I know.
That's a running play.
I think it's because it went forward. The ball went forward in a sort of pass. So I think that's why they call it a pass. But I'm with you, Dan, on that one. I mean, it's a running play. It's just basically a handoff, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like to me if going back 30 plus years, but if that's Jim McMahon handing the ball to Dennis Gentry on an end around, they're calling that a running play. But I don't know what year but that came a pass. But I was glad to see Velus Jones get something positive to he had that fumble that cost us the Giants game in theory. So it's good he had his head up and scored, got his first touchdown, something positive, something to build on is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, if Pettis says, even if he's not released, how in the fuck aren't you putting Harry in there this week or Velus Jones? Like he's got to be the last man. I wouldn't even have him active Thursday.
No, I mean, if they put Harry in this week, I would imagine that he would probably not be active. I mean, you're right. The dropped passes have just been ridiculous. I mean, come on, man. How many more passes would? No, yeah, go ahead. I was waiting because of the delay, Chris.
Yeah, actually, sometimes because it's me, people can't actually tell if it's a delay or it's just me being really slow. But I mean, obviously we can't cut him because we're so much sort of down on numbers on the wide receiver. But that guy sucks, man. I hate calling people a bum and because he's a professional player, but that fucker sucks. It sucks as bad as his hairstyle, man, which is terrible. So, coming from me with a fucking bush on my head, but no, that guy to me, I'm with you, Dan. Really, I wouldn't have him on the active roster on Thursday if we've got enough players. I think that might sort of get him, get into the jug machine and learning how to catch him. And also as well, I think he needs to man up a bit. Because a lot of the passes to him were ones where you were going to get sort of a hit by maybe a linebacker or a safety. And I think he just needs to man up because he was sort of looking for his contact before he caught the ball. So, yeah, I mean, he was quite impressive in the preseason, but that's the preseason. This is big time now, man. So, yeah, I hope they sit him.
The irony is he's been a punt returner in his life. And a lot of those punt returners just take shots after shots. So if he's been effective returning punts, which is basically catching a football when you know 7 guys are about to hit you, and he catches the ball then, but like you said, wide open at a button hook, then he can't catch it. It's just maddening. Like, how can you catch it when it's so many more bodies around you and the shit's like right in your face, but a simple catch you can't make?
I remember the Niners game, that pass, that the pass that kind of broke down and he was wide open. I remember thinking at the time, like, wow, that's a play that's so wide open. He could almost drop it, And I'm surprised he didn't now after all the other drops we've seen.
Yeah. Or how many times would you see a Bears quarterback not make that throw? Like underthrow it or overthrow it, like the receiver wide open.
Right. Trubisky puts that out of bounds.
Exactly, over his head. Oh, he missed it. Just barely.
But, dude, how about the probably ESP award play of the year on that Darnell Mooney catch? That was a fucking what's his name from the Giants type of catch.
Yeah, Beckham.
Like,
did you see
Beckham,
type.
Did you see
that
the
one-handed
photo? I sent you the photo of that, and there's like the angle that they're showing. All the stands in Minnesota are basically empty on that one sideline. It's crazy.
Yes.
I sent it to your phone.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes. In fact, the picture I put down in the new background we made.
Yeah, can you share that one so Chris can see it?
The picture?
Yeah, the catch from Mooney with nobody in the stands. It looks like a fucking preseason game.
Oh, I could probably pull it up here. Let's see. You guys want to chat for a second?
Yeah. Well, did you all see that David Montgomery's name was misspelled on his jersey?
What?
There's nothing more Bears than having your star running back's jersey misspelled. Montgomery's name was misspelled yesterday. It's just like, God, are the Bears?
What's
wrong with them?
How did they spell it?
I don't know. You can look it up. I'll see if I can find it too.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, the Bears are like. Go ahead, Chris. My bad.
No, mate. I was saying I didn't even notice the spelling, but like I did. Yeah, I saw something early on today, and they're on about it, and that's so Chicago Bears, like you said, Dan. I mean, it's not like he's even like a rookie. He's been playing for us for a couple of years, at least. So poor kid comes back from an injury, gets your jersey with his name spelt wrong. That's so funny.
Yeah, I just sent it to you. It's spelled Montgomery. Montgomery. Monto.
Goodness.
Yeah, but I sent it to you if you want to see the article. There's a picture as well if you want me to just send you the picture.
Did you send it to me on my phone?
Yeah, I sent you the whole article, but now I'm just going to send you the individual picture if you want to share it with everybody.
I did. While you're doing that, though, I do have the picture. I do have the picture of the Montgomery catch. So I think this is it, Chris.
Yeah, and look at the stands behind him, or in front of him.
Wow,
there's nobody there.
There's no fucker there at all. It's a fucking hell.
Maybe they're all getting food.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe they try to get away from that annoying horn. What they belt out every time Minnesota get the first down. That's so fucking annoying, man.
I sent you David Montgomery's picture too. If you
Montgomery sounds like a 1980s family saloon car to me.
Yeah. There's nothing more Bears than misspelling your own player's jersey.
Oh my goodness.
Like, how do you do it? Somebody's got to be fired for that. I mean, somebody's got to be fired.
Goodness.
Could you imagine any other team that does that? No one else does that but the Bears.
Can you imagine picking up the jersey to put it on? Like, what the fuck, guys?
If I'm David Montgomery, I'm telling my agent, just get me out of here. Fuck it. They can't even spell my name right, and I'm in my 4th season. These idiots.
Didn't the head equipment manager pass away though?
Well, I don't want anybody to die like that, but whoever took his spot then needs to be fired.
Well, I remember the video of Eberflus and the guy giving him it's the
cap.
one that the Bears put out giving him his the cap with the B on it and saying only the Chicago Bears head coach wears this hat, and I think that was the head equipment guy, and he passed away. So
Wow.
maybe there's having some. That's unacceptable. I don't even know how to.
It is. It's completely unacceptable. It just makes us look like idiots, man. I mean, even us as fans, why are we following this team where they can't spell their names right?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And then, like yesterday, I thought I also used the line, God, there's nothing more Bears than this, to come out the first play of the game and not have enough players on the field. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought
Very
exactly.
first play of the game.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same, Dan. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is the first, you're supposed to have like 10 scripted plays and you can't get the, the right number of players on the pitch to actually do it. And I just thought this is not looking good. This could be a bad omen. Because it's quite funny, Dan, because I remember last week when you were last on the outdoor show, Dan, and you were about like your superstitions about not showering and shaving. Well, I'm getting like that now. Like I'm starting to wear like the same shorts every week and the same Fields jersey, and I think you've got into my head somehow, and like doing the same routine in the Sunday morning before the tailgate show. So the older I get, and the more I hear you, Dan, the more superstitious I'm getting, brother.
Well, I can tell you yesterday, I didn't shave or shower before the game. I waited till after. And I wore a Walter Payton jersey instead of Fields, and we still lost. So.
Oh, man. You'd have thought with the power of the sweetness, we would have won.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Maybe this 1983 Walter Payton jersey is going to help me. But it did not. It obviously did not. But it helped Fields, apparently.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Because Justin looked solid, man. As soon as he completed that ball to Mooney, it's like he was like, okay, I know how to play quarterback. Fuck all these guys criticizing me.
Mm-hmm. I'm down in Florida, and there's this great Chicago food place down here, and I thought if I have a Italian beef for lunch, that'll get the win for the game, because normally I have an Italian beef for lunch, in Illinois. And I went there and had my Italian beef for lunch, and they didn't win the game, so I guess I won't do that next time.
I read someone put a comment in the chat group, but one of you all were talking, if you don't mind me backtracking, someone said that the Thursday night game is replayed on NFL Network. Is that correct? After the game?
No idea, mate.
Someone said in the chat group that the Thursday night game will be replayed after the game on NFL Network. See it right there. It is. NFL Network is replaying the Bears game.
Gives you a chance to look at individual play. The D-line is rough to watch. He's a rookie, but not okay. Really? So they're playing it on Amazon, and then they're replaying on NFL Network right when it's done?
I hope that that's the case, so then I can really watch it for real after the game then. So,
well,
if you can't, I can hook you up with that.
It's a shot. What? Sorry to butt in, mate. I know, terribly rude. You're on about having your Italian beef. When you went back to Illinois to see the first game, and little short videos of your favourite places to eat. And I just kept thinking, next time I see Mr. Shorty, when he's back home, he's going to be like 25 stone or 300 pounds, because he's just been eating all this fantastic Chicagoan food.
I know. I thought the same thing, Chris, but the key to that is I just fast. So that was like my only meal of the day. Yeah. I might eat one little thing later on, but that was like my main meal of the day. It was kind of a pain in the ass because I had to drive, 30, 40 minutes everywhere to get every one of those different meals I was eating. They weren't all right in the area I was staying. So yeah, that was a lot of fun doing that, because there's good food back home. There really
I mean,
is. I miss it.
that were really cool for me because obviously, I've never been to Chicago, and I always heard about the great food and the locations. So it was really good for me to see that. But yeah, I thought Dan's either going to have an heart attack due to the overeating of the meat, or you're going to come back and you're going to look like William Perry in the fridge or something. You know what I mean? You look good on it anyway, Mr. Shorty. Anyway, you look good on it. So it obviously works what you were doing.
No, I appreciate that, Chris. I was wondering the same thing. Like normally when I go home, I gain 10 pounds from all the food, but this time I just tried to make sure because I knew I was doing all those different shorts for it. So I had to just make sure I didn't eat 12 to 14 hours in between each meal just to kind of help keep myself from not getting overweight, like too much overweight.
Sorry to diverge there.
Although you go back down to Georgia and you sweat it all off anyway, so you just a couple of hours in the yard and you sweat it off. It's crazy. I'm glad you enjoyed that though, because really it's if you've never had an Italian beef. I know we talked about this, Chris, and you just said it, but oh my goodness, you have to look up online to see if you can order Portillo's from where you live.
And they don't do international shipping, unfortunately. So I was going to order some. So that's a bit of a downer, but I am going to try and get to Chicago next year. So I will visit all the good food joints and check it all out. But yeah, sorry to take us on a little bit of a slant from the game there. Sorry.
And when you do, keep in touch. I'll try to go home and meet you so we can go out to some of those places together. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Make a few videos as well. That'd be really cool.
You got to try to catch a game too.
Oh, definitely, mate. Definitely. That's the fantasy. What I keep thinking about every week is get your arse into gear and start saving up some money and because it's like Aldo said I can stay at his for a few days, so that'd be really cool. And if I could do it, so like I don't know if Dan's going to get. I know Dan's going to 2 games this year. It'd be cool. It'd be absolutely awesome to meet Dan in person. That'd be really cool as well. So it'd be nice if we could all organise a bit of a big gathering and get to a game and then go for a drink after. Absolutely,
that's what we're doing this for the Dolphins game. So
I'm
we can recreate that again. Oh, me too. I'm jealous for us. It's going to be fun. So, guys, I have some stats pulled up here. I took a little time making them, so I might as well pull them up while we talk. So, overall, your feelings about this game, like you and I, Chris, we talked about it. It's kind of like this game. Why do we feel so good about a loss? And I'm not sure if we kind of got your feelings on that too, Dan. But here we finally have a game that Justin Fields He finally throws for over 200 yards and 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 118.7 rating. He was only sacked twice, guys. Wow. Only twice.
Amazing.
8 rushes for 47, should have been 110. 2 fumbles, but none lost. And then Kirk Cousins, I mean, he was passing the ball over the fucking place.
But that 1 fumble was Mustafa's fault, though. That fucking bad snap. He's an idiot, man. He just is. I know Olin Kreutz likes him, and that seems like the only reason he keeps his job. Like, you got to put Patrick in there and move somebody else to left guard. Mustafa is the weak link. There's no way around it.
He is the weak link. I mean, why can't Patrick get back to center? What's going on?
Yeah, I think they're going to keep him at left guard now that Whitehair's out, I believe.
Oh, God. What are you going to say, Chris?
No, I've completely forgot now. Where we're at now? Yeah, I mean, the thing as well is the surely can't still be saying his hand is still, still injured on his hand, so he can't snap the ball. If you're playing a game where in his position you're always going up with your hands to do some blocking, I just don't get it. Patrick has struggled a bit as well in left guard. I mean, he played better, against the Vikings, but against the Giants, he were terrible. So, I'd rather have Mustafa as the left guard rather than in the center.
Me too. I had a friend that once had surgery on her hand, and the nerves never really took, and her hand was never the same after that. And so I wonder if he's having some kind of nerve damage issue from the surgery or something, because it seems to me that with as much time as he's missed, he should be back on the field by now at center. I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to see what they have in Tyree Carter at left guard.
I think, like I said, I think he probably would be back at center, but it's because of the injury to Cody Whitehair. But, I just, every week I watch, I'm like, man, Mustafa and Barroom. And so many people like Barroom. I mean, not that Lucas Patrick has been great or anything, but I just feel like Barroom and Mustafa don't have it, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about Barroom yet either. And Mustafa is definitely having some issues. They must not want to play him at left guard. I mean, if that's the case, if they're keeping him at center and they're putting Patrick at left guard, what's with the hesitance to maybe swap those two if he can play center, if Patrick can play center?
Maybe Mustafa's that bad at left guard.
Maybe he is.
God.
Maybe he's a revolving door too. We got some more stats here. So Darnell Mooney, 2 catches, 52 yards. Montgomery, 4 catches, 62 yards, long of 30. Cole Kmet's getting more involved. EQ St. Brown, and then Amir Marset with the fuck-umble. That's what I'm calling that. I'm calling that the fuck-umble. It's not quite a fumble. It's more like a fuck and a fumble, but it's more like a strip. So I'm calling that a fuck-umble.
I like that.
Yeah.
Then,
go ahead.
No, then of course Velus Jones finally getting his touchdown with his 1 reception. By the way, he said that he likes to foreshadow things and kind of think about them and bring them into fruition just through like thought. And he said that he thought that he saw that his first catch for a touchdown would be in this game, and it would be his very first catch would be a touchdown. And even though that's not really considered a catch like we talked about, it still, I guess, is a catch. And his foreshadowing was correct, so I got to give him that.
And maybe we're being too hard on Mustafa and everybody as opposed to trying to dissect the defense right now. Or maybe it's Alan Williams. Why are you playing off on the corners when Jefferson is just beating you to death? Like, come up and do some bump and run. Something, make some adjustments. They did later in the game, but why do you wait till it's 21-3 to make an adjustment?
No, you're right.
Jalen Johnson's not that big of a difference maker that his mere presence on Sunday would have mitigated all of those touchdowns. So come on, man, push the corners up a little bit. And now it's like Robert Quinn has become Khalil Mack. Zeros on the stat line.
Yeah, it's kind of what we were all worried about, though. That seems to be his pattern of his career. A lot of sacks one year, very little the next.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, Mr. Shorty. I mean, me and Aldo were discussing at the Tailgate show, and we were discussing like maybe they might trade him before the deadline, because he's getting pressure, but he's just not getting to the quarterback. So I mean, I'd be quite happy if they trade him. Like near if we definitely know we're not going to be in the playoffs, then I'd be quite happy to trade him and get like a 3rd or a 4th round pick for him.
I don't see us. Yeah, maybe a 4th round pick, but I don't see them getting much for him at this point. I mean, if he was lighting it up in the sack chart, then they might be able to get a third or a fourth for him, but do you think he's worth anything now? He's not producing really. There's no numbers that are jumping off the eye test even, so much less the stat chart. So I don't know. Interesting question. Dan, how do you feel about Robert Quinn?
Robert Quinn, like I didn't expect it to be as much of a drop off. Like I didn't think he'd give 18 and a half sacks again. I still thought he'd get 10, like 9, 8, somewhere through there. Like he's doing nothing right now. And it feels like all of his pass rushes, at least when I see him, he's going so upfield and so far away from the quarterback. And then he's trying to cut back toward him, but he's going like his technique is too far away. And I mean, who am I to tell Robert Quinn about his technique? I mean, the whole time he was a linebacker with the Bears, he was saying that I'm a defensive end. I'd rather be in a 4-3. And now he's back in the 4-3 and playing defensive end. And like I said, it feels like every time he rushes, he goes past the quarterback and tries to come back toward him. And he's just so far out of the play that he can't catch up.
He's also not getting any younger. So, I mean, what is he, 33?
I think he's around that age, yeah. I think he's around that age.
Yeah, so, I mean, normally a 33-year-old defensive end, you're looking at the bottom of his career. You're not really expecting much from then on out anyway, so I don't know. I didn't really expect anything more than 8 sacks out of him this year. What does he have, 2?
I think he's got 1.
Yeah.
I think he has 1.
I think that's right, yeah.
So, really?
And Gibson's not getting any pressure either.
Yeah, well, he had a sack the last game, didn't he? That was his only sack. The only sack of the game, I think, was Gibson. Well,
it just felt like he was a player that was on the ascend, that he was going to potentially get 8, 9, 10 sacks this year. How many does he have? 1? 2?
I think you're right there, Dan, yeah.
He doesn't, let's see, he doesn't even have the sack. The 1 sack goes to Justin Jones.
Yeah, you're right. I knew that too. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but I remember seeing that yesterday that, Justin Jones has got a sighting. All right.
Right.
He hasn't done much either.
But look at that. Jalen Jones, 13 tackles and 9 solo. Kyler Gordon. I'm going to talk about that too. Kyler Gordon, he's getting better.
He had a great open field tackle on somebody, and he grabbed their ankle yesterday. Which
2 in a row.
Yeah, but that one was a hard tackle to make, the way he did it, and it was so effective,
Mm-hmm. Eddie Jackson, 9 tackles. He's coming up, he's laying the wood too. Roquan Smith regresses with 8.
Oh man, did you see the tackle he missed on Cook? I think it was Cook, or maybe Cook's backup, number 2, whatever that kid's name was, in the backfield, that could have forced them to punt on one of those big drives.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and he burst through him.
Kyler Gordon has been playing well, though. He's been getting better and better and better, and that's all you can ask for. It helps that it looks like they're kind of keeping him at one position, especially with Jalen Johnson out. So the kid's getting better, and for all the shit talking he was getting the first couple of games, with some of the mistakes he was making, I knew the kid would rebound because he's got the skills. I mean, he is so athletic and so just flexible. And the way that you see him just get to those tackles, like we were just talking about, are impressive. 2 of them were like shoestring around the ankle, tackles, I think back to back to stop the Vikings. So kid's getting better. Can't ask for any more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like the first couple of games when he was really struggling, that's an outlier. I mean, he's in his first 2 professional games. He's going to get better. Like even then, I think I said on one of the 2 shows that I'm not worried about Kyler at all. He's going to be okay.
I wasn't worried about Kyler or Brisker. Really, I wasn't worried about Velus Jones either. But I don't know what the problem is getting him on the field. It's
a bit odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I would have expected some design plays for him by now.
You have to think that by Thursday night, given that Pettis is struggling so badly, you have to think his coming out party in terms of offensive numbers and plays on the field is going to be Thursday. It's got to be.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know if you all saw the end of the Washington game either. Just popped in my head. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And if this guy beats us, fuck if we deserve to lose. I think Carson Wentz is a bum. And they had a chance to beat the Titans. Last play of the game on the goal line, it was like 3rd and goal or whatever, and he got picked off with 5 seconds to go or whatever. I think he really is not only a massively shitty person, and I base that on the fact that when Foles won the Super Bowl, they had the camera on Foles as the confetti's falling, and he goes up to Nick, and within 10 seconds, and goes, "Next year, this is going to be me." Just with the jealousy permeating from this fucking man. He never washes his face. He has bumps all over him constantly. He has bad hygiene. I know he stinks, and his fucking game stinks. If he beats the Bears Thursday, fuck it, we deserve it. I'm not going to beat around the bush like we did with Daniel Jones and be like, I'm afraid. I'm going to say he's a Hall of Famer, and he still had a great game. Carson Wentz is a bum.
You know what, Daddy? Sorry.
No, go ahead, buddy.
I didn't know anything about that Super Bowl. What he said to Nick Foles. That's absolutely fucking terrible.
Yeah,
if I were Nick Foles, I'd just picked up a Lombardi trophy and go, "You're never going to get one of these. I got one, and you're never going to get one." I know the other things I've heard about his character as well. It'd do my head in if I had to be one of his teammates. I really would. And I've never rated him anyway. I know he had that good season before he got injured a couple of years ago. Well, probably about 3 or 4 years ago now. But yeah, I agree with you there, Dan. I think he's a bum as a player and he's a bum as a person.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, like, not trying to be funny or anything. I assume YouTube is the same in Europe that it is here in terms of access to videos.
Yeah, it's the same, mate.
If you can just go and watch the Super Bowl 52 replay and just go to the end of it, it's like as soon as the game ends, like I said, the confetti is just starting to fall. The Eagles have won, and they've got the camera on Foles because they're like, he's a Super Bowl MVP. That's the moment Wentz says it, and it picks it up on the mic.
Wow. As I like to say, Dad, what a fucking wanker.
He is a wanker. Although I feel too pretentious to say wanker as an American, though. So
it sounds beautiful when you say it, Dan. You make it sound like some of what's really good with your beautiful voice. You don't have that Northern England voice like me where it just goes wanker.
He's a wanker.
It's a fucking wanker, mate.
A fucking wanker.
He's a
fucking wanker, mate.
He looks like he doesn't bathe. I'm telling you, he's got like boils and shit on his fucking neck and face. I'm like, dude, wash your face. If your face is that dirty, your ass stinks. You know it. I always said, and he's dead now, so I don't want to take any shots because I liked him in his broadcasting career too. But I always thought when Tony Siragusa played, I was like, that dude just looks like his arms would stink. Like you just know his pits smell like complete and total onions. So, I feel like Wentz would have the worst ball bag smell and butt smell. He's a skank, man.
Yeah, he'd have that cheesy knob smell.
He's got the same boils on his asshole.
God.
Oh God. No, I agree with you, Dan.
We have to beat this dirty fucking guy Thursday. Literally, no integrity, no fucking ability to wash his ass. We can't lose to him.
And you would think Eberflus knows how to beat this cunt, right?
Hey, did Chris? Have you ever seen a movie? It's actually, I was going to ask you, is cunt a word that's used a lot in England? Because Guy Ritchie directed this movie called The Gentleman,
right?
From a few years ago with Matthew McConaughey, and it's phenomenal. And Hugh Grant's in it as well. It's fucking great. But I watched it with the subtitles, and they say cunt like every other word. Is that a big thing in England?
It's not as big as wanker. I mean, cunt, the word cunt is like, it's like the worst word you can say to anybody. It's like the nastiest thing you can say to anybody is cunt. It's. I always remember an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where they're playing cards, and what you call him, the main star. Oh God, what's he called? Like Larry Davis, obviously.
Oh, Larry David, yeah.
Yeah, and they're playing cards, and this player won't go for, like, he sort of chickens out of it, and he calls him a cunt, and like all the table just goes quiet, and that's what it is like over here. Oh man, it's like I don't know, it'd be like me, I don't know, slapping somebody's mum in front of them or something. It'd be terrible.
So wait, what's worse, cunt or whacker?
Cunt
or wanker, I mean. So cunt is worse than wanker.
No. Yeah, and also as well, like use the word fanny for backside. Well, a fanny to us over here is a woman's vagina.
Aldo Gandia in the house. How about that?
Hey,
you see him in the
Aldo, hit that like button for your country. There's country. Thanks for joining us, Aldo. Hey, Dan, have you ever seen the show Deadwood?
I saw it on when it was on HBO. It didn't stick out to me. It didn't make me want to watch it. I've seen an episode here or there.
Have you seen that show, Chris?
I haven't. No, I'm not a massive sort of TV series guy. Really, it's too much commitment for me. When you got to watch about 18 shows in a seain, it's too much. Commitment.
No, this is way before that. This is back in like the early 2000s. It was on HBO.
Right.
It was just a show about this gold mining town in, I think, South Dakota, and they said cunt every other word. Like if you took a shot every time they said the word cunt, if you took a shot of beer every time they said the word cunt, you'd be drunk in a half an hour. I mean, or less. They said it so much. But I'm surprised that that word isn't so that's like the ultimate word in the UK. Huh? It's like when you say that you're serious.
That's a bit. Yeah, that's a big no-no. You know what I mean? That's the word where you really want to say for your worst enemy is calling it a cunt. It really is. It really is. I mean, I feel quite bad just saying it now.
Yeah, I shouldn't have used it, but that's kind of how I feel about Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah,
and a smelly one as well.
I felt bad for him when he blew out his knee. He was having a MVP-ish season and blew out his knee, but just the aftermath of everything that happened after that, you could just tell he's just like you said, Dan. He doesn't seem like a very good guy.
And it was Irsay, the Colts owner, that was like personally trying to, like, I'll take anything for him. Please, please trade for him. It was Irsay who was like, I hate this guy. He's a parasite. We've got to trade him. Like, imagine if, our guys, George McCaskey would interrupt or interfere in the team and just say, he's got to go. But he kind of did that with Anthony Miller now that I think about it in that press conference. He's like, that punch was unacceptable in the playoff game. And then, they moved him. So maybe he did. But, yeah, Jim Irsay wanted him gone, and he got his wish. I just think Wentz is a bad teammate, definitely a guy that has no hygiene, and we can, but we should not lose. For years, we lost to the Redskins every time we played them, whether it was in Washington or Chicago. It was like 8 straight games we lost to them, including the playoffs. But they're not even the Redskins anymore. It's time to beat them.
Well, I would like to know, like, your thoughts on this upcoming game. Like, what do you think with them, the both of us only having 4 days to prepare for this Thursday night game? Let's talk about that in just a moment. Kitty, let's come back right after this. We'll talk about that.
This Thursday, it's game day at the Barroom Network. At 6 p.m. Central, 7 Eastern, it's a special Buffon 55, a pregame show of the Bears and Commanders. You'll get John's passion for the Bears along with an expert covering the Commanders. And then at halftime, it's Bear football. John, Danny Shimon, and Tyler Ellis break down the Bears' performance. That's this Thursday on the Barroom Network, the bearer of Bears news.
Do you guys feel that we have an advantage in this game because Eberflus has played, so many different practices against Carson Wentz?
That should be an advantage, but you would have thought that Minnesota would have been tired yesterday from the jet lag in London, but obviously that didn't come into fruition. So, but yeah, you think he had one whole season to know this guy's weaknesses. That's got to help us a little bit. Plus, Alan Williams is tied to the Colts, and you got Muhammad that was a Colt, and wasn't Adams a Colt too? So you got a couple of guys that know him fairly well, and they're the team that has to travel this week. We got to sit at the crib and eat our own cooking and things like that. We being a Bear, like I'm one of the players, but you know what I'm saying? The Bears, it should be on a short week. It should behoove them to be at Soldier Field.
Chris?
It's got to give us an advantage because Alan was actually a coach at the Colts. It was quite a while on it, a defensive coach. So he'll know their philosophy inside out. So it's got to be a bonus for us, definitely. And I mean, I think they've already won one game anyway. So they're not like a team that's firing in all cylinders. So I mean, I'm expecting this could be a game where Justin Fields, from start to finish, played like he did in the second half against the Vikings. So yeah, I mean, I think this has got to be a win because this is a team where this is a sort of team and their level we've got to beat. We are better than them as a team, I think. Yeah, I think the coach knowing their system and knowing them inside out, it's got to be a massive plus for us.
It kind of feels like that, doesn't it? The first few games of the season, I kind of talked about this, that they were just pounding the ball down their opponents' throats. And I felt like they were trying to build the running game to allow the passing game to kind of come to Fields. And I think that they might have, maybe the game plan called for them to throw the ball, more last week against the Vikings. But nonetheless, they still did it. And now you're starting to see the progression, I think, slowly build with the Justin Fields era, where he's starting to throw more balls. His completion percentage is getting better. He had that game in hand at the end there. The kid has gene, the clutch gene. We saw him do it against the Ravens. They almost won last year. He drove the ball down the Pittsburgh game. That game was just, God, that was so frustrating that he just couldn't get that comeback win. And that game...
It was that play, that penalty that cost us, where the guy did like the karate kick and they said he was taunting, which was bullshit. He wasn't taunting anyone specifically. There's no difference between that and, say, remember Neil Smith with the Chiefs and the Broncos would act like he was hitting a home run whenever he got a sack. Everyone has a little dance or something whenever they get a sack. And I just thought that was one of the worst calls of all time. Combined with that one yesterday in Minnesota, that was right up there too.
Yep. Another victory.
Sorry. Yeah, is that the game where the referee sort of stepped back right into our defensive player, and then he got a flag flown because he bumped into a referee or something?
Mm-hmm. That's the game.
Or am I just tripping? That's the game.
No, that's the game.
I thought it was.
It's almost like it's a fucking conspiracy now. I mean, that game was his signature game, and they took it away from him. And then we had this signature comeback happening again yesterday, and they just took it away from him. I mean, by that, I mean, on the illegal block in the back, that was bullshit. That wasn't an illegal block in the back. It was a block on the side, and like you said, Dan, he overreacted to it. They got the penalty for no damn reason. That game would have changed if that was a touchdown. Imagine if they took away that awesome run that, Justin Fields has against the Niners last year, and we never even got to enjoy that touchdown. It's like, that's the kind of sick feeling I have in my gut from that play in the game. In fact, let's pull that play up again one more time right now, because it's wait, where is it, Kitty? I can't find it. I lost it.
I can buy time with another point if you need me to.
Please buy your time.
There was another flag in the game that really pissed me off right before Vildor got the interception on Cousins, and I got to give Vildor credit because I've often criticized him saying I thought he stunk, but not literally like Carson Wentz would stink, but like his play wasn't very good. But the play before that was what, third or fourth down? And I think it was fourth down. Minnesota goes for it, and they don't get it, and they called a bullshit penalty on the Bears and gave them a first down. But then the next play, Kirk Cousins got intercepted. But the penalty on the Bears was, again, another one of those like, oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, it was just a terrible call. You know the one I'm talking about? Right before the interception, it's fourth down. The Bears hold them, and of course they throw a penalty. Oh my God!
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one point in the game too, early on, when Fields had a wide open receiver in the end zone. I can't remember who it was, and the Vikings players not looking back, not trying to defend the ball, and is all in his face and touching him, and they don't throw a fucking flag.
I know.
Here's
another one. Here's it.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Chris.
I was just going to say, the one thing what still baffles me is that the referees aren't full time. The NFL's like the biggest league in the world, profit wise and probably viewed, and we still have referees what have other jobs. And I think really, I can't. They need to sort of make them full time so we stop having these crappy calls all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one with Harrison Smith. That's it. The one on Mooney. Where he's not even trying to make a play for the ball. And you tell me if this is Chicago and Green Bay that flag isn't called on the Bears.
Nope, because he didn't turn his head for the ball.
He didn't. Yep. That's a fucking penalty. If that's the Bears playing defense, that's a penalty.
A beautiful move to get wide open. The ball is thrown a little bit late, but he doesn't even turn his head back towards the ball. He puts his arm up and takes his arm off. That's a fucking penalty.
In 1977, when defenders could fucking hit you in the throat, that's still a penalty. That would have been called face guarding back then. Mm-hmm. That's a penalty in any era is what I'm saying. When you could legally powerbomb another player, that one was still illegal because he's face guarding. He's not trying to make the play. He's just putting his hands in your face, touching you. That's a flag. That's a fucking flag right there. Like, I'm glad Jenny wasn't watching the game yesterday. She probably would have reevaluated my relationship with her. She'd have been like, this guy's losing his mind over nothing. But that was significant. Just like, I hate to have a victim complex, but when you're watching plays like that, I get it. The Bears have been bad for a while now, but come on, man, just call the game evenly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know. So fucking frustrating. It's like, when are we going to get those calls? That happens. If that was Green Bay, that would have happened 4 times in one game.
Yeah, and something else they never call Green Bay on. Whenever they throw like that little bubble screen and there's 3 receivers out there to start blocking for them, they always pick. They do an illegal pick, like an NBA pick, and they never call it, which is supposed to be illegal. When, again, the outside guy runs in and the inside guy runs out, and they do a pick, and they never call it. Or that little bubble screen when everyone's there holding, and they never call that one either. Every time Green Bay does that, they cheat, and they never get that fucking flag thrown on them.
Yep.
And Harrison Smith, my favorite Harrison Smith moment was, I know he intercepted Mitch in his first game or whatever on Monday night, but fuck him. Go back to 2015, even though we ended up losing the game. But at the end, before Bridgewater brought them back, Cutler threw his shoulder down and ran over that motherfucker in the end zone and scored, ran over his ass. And Harrison's supposed to be a big, tough safety. and Jay ran over him like he was playing fight with children. You got to
Yes,
go.
I remember that.
I remember it. It's magical.
Yes, I remember
I
that.
mean, he lowered his shoulder. It was like boom, and like I said, ran him out of his fucking shoes. It was fantastic.
This game was lost on a double. We lost this game because of a double agent, in my opinion. The fucking Vikings paid this guy off because they knew he was going to catch the last catch of the game, and they paid him off to fucking give the ball back to the Vikings at the end of the game. They planned this whole thing, Dan.
I can't go there. Again, I think even Marion Barber, the late Marion Barber's stupid play in Denver when he ran out of bounds when he wasn't supposed to. This is like the flip side of that. I think this kid's trying to make a play against his former teammates. I think what you're saying is in jest anyway, but no, I just think he's trying to make a play, and it's unfortunate that it came down to that. But the guy's just trying to make a play, man, trying to get more playing time, and it's terrible the way it played out. But again, he's trying to do something to help the Bears there, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, the best thing to help the Bears would have been just to go out of bounds. I mean, I'm not saying he's a double agent. I'm just kidding. But I mean, why don't he run out of bounds?
To me, he's just trying to make a play. I agree with you. He should have gone out of bounds. And we probably said that in real time. It's not like we waited a day to formulate that opinion. I mean, it's obvious you're trying to maintain the clock too. But I think he did like a little juke and then cut it back inside, which, again, it's not the right move. But if you put yourself in his cleats, maybe he's just trying to like, oh, I can get free. I can juke this guy and I can go to the house. Maybe he's just trying to make a play, overly aggressive, in my opinion.
Like Taurine Whitfield says, back-to-back losses on boneheaded plays. I mean, last week didn't really end on a boneheaded play, but what's that, Chris?
I'll say it's quite surprising though that's the case, because one of the things about the new coaching staff is that they try to get discipline in the squad, and like especially when it was like the pre-season we had a low number of penalties, and we still have really throughout the season. So it's been quite surprising that the players been making these bonehead decisions. But I agree with Dan. I think the kid would just try to make the big play rather than use his head and go out of bounds. But he did cost us the game, fortunately.
Yeah, it cost us the game. Two plays of his cost us the game. Like you could pick one of them, and I know he's just trying to make plays, and we need him out there on the field to try to make plays. It's just unfortunate, It is what it is.
I mean, that's what sport is, isn't it? It's a drama of sport. That's why we all love watching, football. It's a drama of sport, but it's the knowing of the not knowing, if you know what I mean. So unfortunately, we were just on the wrong side of it, in that game. And hopefully, karma will balance it back up, man. Me and Dad will have to keep doing his weird, superstitious ways before the game, and hopefully that'll bring the karma back to the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I didn't give up though. I was complaining to Aldo during the game during those 3 touchdowns. I'm like, God, it's like this is worse than Nagy with the inability to make transitions on the kind of schemes you're running. But I didn't give up. Like, I remember there was a game in 2016, the year we went 3-13 when Jay was hurt his last year there, and we had Matt Barkley and what's that other fucking guy's name? He was number 2. I just hate it. Brian Hoyer. We had all these horrible quarterbacks playing, and but we went to Philadelphia. It was the night that a couple of the Bears were supposed to be out in the strip club the night before, and we got rolled. It was like 38-3 or something. At that game, I actually tweeted because I was like, as much as I hate shaving my balls, I'm going to go just fucking deal with my pubic hair at the half because it'll be more exciting than the Bears game was in the first half. That's true. If you go back and research my tweets. But that Bears-Eagles game was like the only one I can think of in recent years where I was like, oh, we have no shot to win this game whatsoever. None.
Yeah, I mean that.
Dan, all I've got is an image of you bent over with your legs apart with a shaver. I can't get this image out of my head. You saw. I'm going to go to bed later on tonight, and that's all I'll see is a picture of Dan with his legs open, try to do his balls. So yeah, cheers to that one, Dan.
He's in a mirror.
I'm not a wolf, guys. I can't stand hair on my penis. So, having said that, that's what I tweeted. That's like I'd rather go do that than watch the Bears-Eagles game. So yesterday I was still in it though, 21-3. I still felt like we had a chance, especially when Mooney caught the ball. But even before that, I just felt like, God, we're not getting blown out today. I just had that feeling, even though when I was tweeting, maybe Aldo, when I texted him, he probably kind of thought that I probably had given up again. Because I was like, this is like worse than Nagy. What is going on? Make an adjustment, But I still felt like Justin was going to play better, and ultimately he did. It's just so unfortunate that we find new ways to lose every week.
What do you guys think about the 2-point conversion, that screen? What the hell was that all about?
Yeah.
To go
What
for
about
a 2-point
the
conversion
onside
and
kick? What do you
play
think
a
about the
fucking
onside
screen?
kick?
I actually like the onside kick. I thought that was a good way to try to catch him off balance. But
Right.
the 2-point conversion, fucking screen? Come on.
Oh, I love the onside kick. And it looked like they had a shot of getting it too, but you're right. The play call there was dreadful. I was like, just give it to Montgomery. Just give it to David Montgomery. We make that too. Remember the Green Bay game when Fields got in, but the angle didn't show it enough or whatever. Right there, like just hand it to David Montgomery and let him do his thing. We make it too complicated down there. I remember in 2001 when we were making that big comeback against San Francisco, the Mike Brown game. Early on, we were creeping back in the game with A-Train, and I think he had 2-point conversions running the ball, at least one. Yeah, because David Terrell caught one of them, but the one he shocked them when they handed it to A-Train just straight up the middle, and he scored on a 2-pointer. Like, you don't have to be cute there, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And
they tried to be cute.
I think a lot of that's down to coaches trying to be too smart. Instead of doing something basic where you probably got a good percentage of work. It's a bit like what Nagy used to do, overcomplicate things, and like you said, Dan, just let the guy give it to David Montgomery and let the guy run up the throat and get in there.
Or do one of those RPOs.
I keep butting in. I'm terrible.
No, you're great. Just one of those RPOs then where it's up to Fields to make the decision, either hand the ball to 32 or keep it and go in the end zone himself. And then you have two opportunities based on Fields' defensive recognition on trying to score versus that pass, which it just seems like it was going nowhere at all. Like there's no chance of it to go in.
Yeah, because wasn't that play out of a shotgun as well?
I think so.
Why
don't they bring in the fucking fullback? I can never pronounce his name. What's the fullback's name we've got now? But
Blazing Game.
Yeah, bring Blazing Game and in the I formation, hand the ball to 32 or do that RPO with Fields in Montgomery. But either way, keep it like this has probably been said by every coach in America, but our football coach back in the day would always talk about the KISS system. Keep it simple, stupid. So there you go. Just hand him the ball. Hand him the ball.
Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little fullback dive right there.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
We always tried that with Jason McKee, and it never worked. The old fullback dive. Like, oh, God. Lovey would try to sneak that in, and it did not work. Now it works back in the day with, like, Brad Muster. Like, he'd always do that effectively. Or But McKee, who was the guy we had in the 01 team? They ran him a little bit on that, too. Former Dolphin, Stanley Pritchett. Like, that worked with him a little bit, too, back in the 01-02 era. Because I just advocate giving it to the back there. That's his job. And you saw how great that run was for Montgomery when he scored earlier in the game. That was all effort.
Yeah, for sure. Blasingame seems like the kind of guy, though, that could give you that. He seems athletic enough that you give him the ball on a 4th and 1 like that, or a 4th and goal like that, that he could have enough athleticism to get in the end zone on a handoff. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I just feel like I agree with you. That just seems like one of the plays we would try and it would get blown up immediately. And then everyone would say, what are you doing handing the ball to him? You know, it just feels like that never works when the Bears do it, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm.
Well, it's better than, 2 opportunities almost back-to-back games, and you're going, shotgun out of that position. That's just, I don't know.
No, I agree. Again, if you go way back, if we're going back to the 80s, Matt's going to get in right there. So I would love to see Blasingame get some time and some carries.
Some game. Matt Sui is a little bowling ball, though. I mean, he had that short center of gravity, those short legs.
Yeah, I mean, hell, there were games where he and Walter both, would get like fucking 20 carries.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that the goal line situations, the 2-point conversion situations, they need to be doing something. They seem to be doing things a little bit too cute, and I think they should be doing something a little bit less cute than that. Like you're saying, just go to the basics. Just get the ball in the fucking end zone, Stop trying to be cute on those plays.
Mm.
Yeah, I was reading. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, sorry, Dan. I mean, that's a bit like against oh my goodness, against the Texans when we got nearly 200 yards rushing it, like the most we rushed since 1984. And I was saying on the tailgate show that I couldn't give a shit if we run it 100 times in a game, as long as you win the game, whatever works. Use it. I mean? I think there's some sort of snobbery in the NFL about the run game. You know what I mean? And as a running back, well, not now, but when I was younger, I think it's just as important as the passing game. So I really don't understand why people don't get behind the running game. It's what football's based on, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, people were saying in the chat room there that, and I forget who said it, I don't mean any disrespect and not attributing it to them, but that Montgomery still was hurt. He didn't have a lot of, bursts yesterday, and that 25, he's not feeling well either. So then bring in Khalil Herbert on that 2-point conversion then. But that's just my opinion. I mean, I like the fact that they went for it. And I love the onside kick. I love that Eberflus was like, man, we've got a little bit of momentum. Let's catch them on their heels now. Neither play ended up working, but at least he wasn't afraid to try.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the Saints won a Super Bowl that way. Literally caught the Colts napping and went onside to start the second half, and it turned that whole game.
Yeah, and you're seeing here, like, we've been running the ball less. No, like we started off run heavy, and then we started to pass the ball a little bit more last week and run it a little bit. Well, we ran it a lot last week, but now going into this game, we ran it a lot less than we
just because
have all season.
Fields felt it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think us watching the television, we felt that he felt it, like tangibly or intangibly, rather. We knew he had some momentum, and I think the coaches were like, fuck it, let's ride his hot hand right now, especially if Montgomery's not 100% like they were intimating in the chat room. Well, let's just lean on number one because he's got it right now, and he did.
Mm-hmm. Even when the pass broke down, he was getting out of the pocket and running around. He got a lot of first downs with his legs. I mean, and at the end of the game there, the pocket was breaking down around him, and he was getting rid of the ball quick. I mean, it was coming out of his hand.
He was feeling the rush, too. He was feeling the rush, and to the point where even Adam Amin was saying, oh, look at him spin away from the rush, and he didn't even look at him, but he felt it. So, I mean, those are things that 2 or 3 weeks ago, Everybody on every national platform was saying that Fields can't read the defense. He holds the ball too long. He never senses pressure. And yet you see the growth in like just 2 games. And I bet nobody's giving him the props for that either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the pocket was starting to break down around him, and you would start to see him wind up. You're like, oh God, no, don't get into that long wind up, to where they're going to swat the ball out when you're bringing but he was like, boom, boom, boom. You were seeing the ball come out of his hand quick when he was just darting those passes on that last couple of drives, especially that last one. I really believe we were going to win the game if it wasn't for that fuck up by Marset. I really do. We were going to go down there and win that game.
Or at the very
probably
least,
would have gotten
go to overtime. Here goes the question I have for you. If let's say we score and you make it 29-28 with like 2-3 seconds to go or whatever, do you think Eberflus says, fuck it, our defense is gassed, they just gave up a 17-play drive or whatever for half the fourth quarter and goes for 2 again?
I was just going to say that. I think they would have gone for 2, yeah.
I got that feeling too, that because the defense was just so done, it felt like at that point, that I think he would have gone for 2 again. Oh, man, imagine if he had gone for 2 and didn't get it, though.
Yeah.
Imagine if they would have gone for 2 and come out in the shotgun again. Would all been like, oh, God.
And Fields got stopped at the half-yard line. What are you doing, Eberflus?
Again.
God, I think if that had happened, I think my head would have just exploded in complete rage. And if there'd have been something living, it would have been kicked if that had happened.
There was a famous.
If I had the 2 to choose from, the loss that way or the loss that way, Chris, I think I would take the loss we just had.
Yeah.
There was an infamous game in '94. Dallas at Philadelphia late in the year at the Vet, and I can't remember the exact situation, if it was 4th down and maybe there was a penalty or a timeout, but the Cowboys ran Emmett or whatever. It's like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and they didn't get it. And for some reason, they got a chance to run the ball back. Maybe they went for it on 3rd down and the next play was 4th down, or there was a penalty. I can't recall, but Barry Switzer was the Dallas coach then. He called the exact same play, 2 plays, 2 downs in a row, and both times they lost yards. So it was just like, yeah, it was like they were furious with the play calling, but you can't believe he called the same play again and it didn't work. It just, that stuck out in my head.
That reminded me of the Niners game that I was at in the first game of the season when they were in our end zone and they ran a play and there was a holding, and then they ran the exact same play again and got nothing. And then they punted the ball from like the 5-yard line. I thought, why the hell did they run that play twice in a row, that you gave them the same exact look 2 times in a row? And thank God I haven't seen that happen again by the Bears, because it was the first game of the year and I was like already questioning our offensive coordinator. And I know some people are still questioning him to this point, but I think he's an upgrade over what we've had so far. It feels like he's trying to actually build towards something. So
he's much better than Nagy. I just thought of something else to pull out of the time, digging up like an old memory. Chicago and Miami in '97. How many times do you see a play when like, oh, Mooney's wide open. Oh, the throw, they missed it, and they don't go back to it. Well, in '97, we were driving, and we were down 18 points in the fourth quarter and came back to win the game. And Eric Kramer missed Chris Penn. I wish that Dan was here to hear this story, but he missed Chris Penn wide open. And like Kramer's like, shit, you could just tell with the body language. And they come back the next play. They ran the exact same play. He was open again, and he connected the second time. The Bears never do that. Like if the play was wide open and we didn't get it, we'll come back to it in a few weeks. But they ran the same play back-to-back in '97, got it on the second attempt.
Yeah, you know what, Dan? Your memory is absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, I've smoked far too much weed to have any sort of memory like yours, mate. But your recall of individual players and games, it's just amazing.
I'm just a nerd, man. I mean, this is the shit that matters. I don't know.
Oh no, I mean I'm the same. I mean when I was younger in the 80s, when I first got into football, I mean I used to constantly watch this video what I bought. It was the story of the 1985 Chicago Bears season, and I must have nearly worn that videotape out over the years because I was just obsessed with it. I was just obsessed with the story of that season. But yeah, man, it's your recall's absolutely amazing.
Well, there was another guy from Europe that was trying to hit me up for games. If we didn't have the problem with shit, we're region 1, you're region 2, and if the shit would be compatible, I'd hook you up with games. The same thing with Heidi, where she's in Mexico. It's not compatible either.
Right,
and
right.
I can't. Otherwise, I would send you a bunch of old games, but it won't play for you.
No, yeah. I mean, and I never got a DVD player these days anyway, because everything what I use is streaming now. So I never got a DVD player, but that's a shame, man, because that would have been awesome. I mean, I do go on YouTube and try and find some like old Bear games and stuff like that. 'Cause I just like watching football from the 1980s. There's one YouTube channel. It's got loads of vintage NFL games on it. And I just love watching 1980s football. So it just brings back really good memories for me, being a kid. And I mean, all we had in the UK at the time was just a 1-hour highlight show. That's all we had a week. And we never, the only time we got to see a full game was maybe the playoffs and obviously the Super Bowl. So, yeah, when I see stuff from the 80s, mate, gives me a good feeling, man.
I love watching those old NFL Network films with the old the voice and the Raiders. The music.
Well, Dan, while you were gone, I wanted to make a point to you, and then I'm going to go pee too. So, but I've drunk 3 waters since we started here. So, I was talking about how, the Bears, let's say you miss a wide open receiver, they won't come back to that play again until at least the second half or something. In 97, the Bears are in Miami on a Monday night game. It was supposed to be a Sunday game, but the Indians and Marlins went to Game 7, and they had to play the World Series Game 7 at Pro Player Stadium in Miami, so they moved us to Monday. And the Bears are down 18. They're 0-7. They're the sorry-ass Bears. And Kramer leads a comeback in the fourth quarter, and one of them, he had Chris Penn wide open in the end zone. He throws it he overthrew him, and you could just see Kramer sick, like, shit, And they come back with the exact same play. They got the exact same coverage, and he hit Penn on the next one for a touchdown. You never see that anymore. The gall to come back with the same pass play when the quarterback has an errant throw, and then you run the same route and he's open again. The Bears never do that, but he did it in 97. Chris Penn scored, and the rest is history. I'm going to piss now. I'll be right back.
Leave on a high, Dad. Leave on a high.
Do you have to pee too, Chris?
No, for some reason, I'm like a camel. I just go for hours, even when I'm out having a drink. I just seem to go for hours. So I've either got something wrong with my prostate, or I just seem to go for hours, mate. So no, I'm fine, mate. I'm fine. I mean, I'm going to have to leave when we finish this hour because I've got to get up in about 2 hours' time. But
oh my goodness!
Yeah, I don't even know what it's 20 to 3 in the morning over here, so I've got to get up about 6. Well, I probably can stretch it to about 7 actually. So I'll have to leave you and let you and Dan do the last hour. But I'm like this weird camel. I can just keep getting it down and just keep. I think it's because I used to go to a lot of concerts when I was younger, and the last thing you want to do is sort of, miss your favourite song from a band. So I used to just stand there, even though I thought I'm going to piss down my leg, I'd just stand there going, I'm not going to miss this song. I'm not going to miss this song. So that must have been the start of the camel bladder.
Yeah, well, you're apparently your prostate is doing pretty well too, so you have everything good going for you there, buddy.
Cool. Well, that's like I never thought I'd be talking about a prostate on a Chicago Bears show.
Well, we did lose, so
Yeah, it feels like the loss felt like a prostate examination.
no kidding, right? Well, you just let us know whenever you have to go, buddy. I know that you're 5 hours ahead of us, so.
No, I'm fine until about 3 o'clock. Until the end of this hour, I'll be fine, mate. I don't want to leave on a down or anything. I am sort of fading a bit because it's quite late on, so I don't want to sort of like slump over and look like I'm being uninterested. So yeah, but it's as usual, Dan. It's been an absolute blast talking to you again, mate. And you're doing such a good job on the show, and also as well, the other show you do with the lady, is it Lynn? She's absolutely amazing. Her energy and her football knowledge and her energy, man, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. So I sent her a message after your last show saying how to enjoy what she brings to the show, and but she's really, really, really good, really good. And
thank you.
Yeah, I keep thinking.
Thank you very much, Chris.
I always think, God, I wish my mum were a bit like
that. No, what Chris is talking about is this amazing woman that I found. Her name is Lynn Hayden, and she has her own Bears podcast called Let's Talk Chicago Bears on YouTube. And I thought this woman is awesome. And she's got just great personality, and she's got all these different facial expressions and stuff. So I had to reach out to her to see if she was interested in coming on the show. And it turns out she lives in the town. She lived in the town next to me the entire time that I lived, all 30 plus years that I lived there. And like, holy crap, that was weird. So yeah, I mean, for everyone on Barroom Network watching this Bears Country podcast, we have our own YouTube channel. So please go check that out as well. We do a lot of different things on there, and one of them is a show that I've been working on with her that you're talking about, Chris, Lynn Hayden. We're doing a little thing called The Lowdown with Dan and Lynn. So please check that out on Bears Country Podcast as well. By the way, make sure that you subscribe to Barroom Network. Make sure you like this content. We're here for Barroom Network. Barroom Network has been awesome having us broadcast live from their station to kind of give us some exposure, and we're trying to help Barroom out, and Barroom's trying to help us out too. So make sure you like and subscribe to both pieces of content, Bears Country Podcast and Barroom Network, and check out what Chris is talking about. Lynn Hayden is she's a lot of fun. In fact, I have a little bit that I put together for her on the show that I do with her. I can play it for you right now, just for everyone to kind of get an idea of what she's like. She's funny. Hold on, check this out.
Absolutely great.
Check this out. That's Lynn Hayden. She's a lot of fun. Make sure you check her out too. Her channel is pretty cool.
Yeah, I strongly recommend the show.
What's that, Dan?
I was going to say, I didn't want to interrupt. I don't know if you'd want to show it, but I gave you the highlights in the private chat of that Bears-Dolphins game, the one I was referencing in '97.
Cool.
I don't know if you want to show it. It's only 2 minutes. It's a Sports Center highlight with Rich Eisen still at ESPN on the mic.
Let's see if that works. Hold on, let's try it out. Nope. No, I'd have to go and make a cut of that. I'd have to make a clip of that and then pull it up into StreamYard here. So that would take me a few minutes.
All right, well, that's fine.
Yeah, because why is Aldo able to do that?
Yeah, I think so. Whenever we're referencing something,
really?
I remember I was talking to him. This is a couple of years back. The Bears were in Denver in 1996, and the Broncos were unbeaten. It's like week 11, and Dave Craig is playing because Kramer had broken his neck in Detroit. and Dave Craig, like 48 years old, Dave Craig at the time, has us at first and goal from like the 1 with like 45 seconds to go. And we had 1 timeout and we don't get in. And he pulled up the highlight immediately and 4 straight plays from like the 1 or the 3 or whatever it was, and we didn't fucking get in. It was just sickening. I wanted to win that game so badly.
I don't know how to do that.
Dad, is that David Craig who used to play for the Seattle Seahawks?
Yes, that is the same David Craig.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, he led the Seahawks to the AFC Championship game in 1983. Yeah. And by 96, we had him as our backup, but he played most of that season because Kramer got hurt in week 4 in Detroit, broke his neck.
Wow.
Which is what led to the Rick Meyer trade, because the Bears didn't know if Kramer would ever play again, considering the severity of that injury.
Right. I'm not as skilled as Aldo is at that stuff yet, Dan. So I'll have to figure out how to do that. But I don't know how to pull up that link you sent me up into StreamYard here. So my apologies.
No, that's
I'm getting there though. I'm getting there.
Can I just say, Dan, that was a really good interview as well, what you did with Kramer. I really enjoyed it, man. And I was quite surprised how open he was about his difficulties, what he's had through life, and what his terrible, I don't know if it was his wife or his girlfriend did to him, and how open he was, really. But yeah, that was a great interview by yourself and Aldo. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. I worked on that really hard for a couple of like a week or so, back and forth. At first I had to go through his, like, I want to say the word handler, but it's the guy that runs his Twitter, that he trusts, that he met when he played with the Chargers after the Bears. It's like the Chargers equipment manager or something from way back then. And I was telling him to tell Eric, like, hey, we don't want to sensationalize your personal life and your problems. We're real fans here. We're not trying to get clickbait. We just want to talk about your football days. And he insisted that we talk about that if he come on. He said, I want to clear my name. He's like, this lady, accused me of harming her, and it's front page news. And when I'm exonerated, nobody knows. They just think of me as a wife beater. And he's like, I want to get my story out so badly because it's bullshit that she accused me of this, and everyone just believes it because I'm a man. And so, yeah, he insisted when we got him on that he wanted to tell his full story. And if you can recall, he got very emotional and really worked up, like to the point where I just probably should have interrupted him and got him back on track. But I guess I was afraid to, honestly, because I didn't want to seem disrespectful when he was just venting from his fucking soul,
No, I think that's what made the interview, Dan.
For anyone who doesn't know what you're talking about, when was that, Dan? The interview with Eric?
The summer of 21, probably somewhere in June. Yeah, it was really good. If you didn't listen to it, Dan, I'm not trying to put myself over here. I'm putting over Eric Kramer. Because again, he gave us like an hour to talk football, and then he did an hour and a half talking about his struggles. We had him almost 3 hours. And yeah, I would reference a play even when he was in Detroit, and he could tell you who was in the huddle. Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, absolutely. I remember it. He was my second read. Like, he can tell you all of that shit. He is despite shooting himself in the head and surviving. He is sharp on his long-term memory. I mean, it's fucking like, it's unbelievably. Conversely, when I got to talk to Jim McMahon and I was sick, I was so congested. I felt bad. Like, I even thought maybe I had COVID. I didn't. Like, that's how bad I felt. And then Jim didn't remember a lot of stuff either. So I felt like I bombed the McMahon interview, because it was like my job to like make his memory, like I wanted to make him like, oh yeah, now that you said that, you've like juggled, or what's the word I'm looking for? You've jogged my memory. And it didn't go well. I sounded like shit, and Jim didn't remember a lot of stuff, but Kramer remembered everything.
I don't think that's the case at all, Dan. I did see that interview with Jim McMahon. I just think that, I mean, you got Jim McMahon. It's just, that's how Jim McMahon is. You did a great job of funneling the questions to him and and working around, him eating a cheeseburger and all that shit. I mean, it was a great. In fact, it got me down a wormhole for hours just watching old Jim McMahon film. Oh God, I kind of forgot up until that point just how fucking good he was. I mean, he
was 49 and 17 with the Bears.
Yeah.
At one point, he won 28 straight starts, and the one that he lost was because Kevin Butler missed 2 extra points. 2 in Denver on a Monday night game in 87. The Bears lost 31-29 because Butler missed 2 extra points. And that's something that Phil and I used to talk about. He's like, man, I didn't realize how bad Kevin Butler was until you said that, because like Butler was so good in 85 and he hung around forever. He was at the Bears until like 90 through 95. But you can look at, he missed a game winner in 91 from like 19 yards against that was 93 against the Raiders. There were so many game-winning kicks he missed. It didn't matter if it was 20 yards, 50 yards. He had one solid year, and he was inconsistent the rest of the way.
I remember that Raiders game. That was one of those fucking just penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty games for the Bears. They were at the Raiders. And they got...
This one was in Chicago, actually, in 93.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, not to contradict you, but this one was at Soldier Field, and it was a 4 o'clock Eastern game, so it was dark most of the game because it was late in the year in November. So yeah, but that was
I had everything else wrong but the location. So yeah, I remember that game.
2 field goals that would have won it, and one was from like 19 yards, man. And like Phil was even like, God, I'd forgotten. He's like, because the story, the myth around the 85 Bears. Butler's very popular amongst everyone that played on the team and that aura. And he always speaks on the documentaries. And you just assumed he was there for 11 seasons. So, hell, he must have been solid. And I liked him, don't get me wrong. But, dude, he was really inconsistent for 10 of those 11 years.
Yet he still ended up being he's the Bears record holder for most points scored.
Well, he was around so long, and the Bears scored a lot of points at that time when you still had McMahon and Walter and Willie Gault. And people forget that, when we won the Super Bowl, they were not only number 1 on defense, but number 1 on offense that year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that.
And they were a better defense the next year.
Yeah, statistically speaking, but Jim got slammed by the Packers and Charles Martin, and that moment when they did that cheap shot and tore his rotator cuff. Pardon me, I had to have a mic because I was coughing there. But that injury, that ended, for all intents and purposes, I don't think anyone knew it at the time, but that ended the dynasty right there. Between that and Wilbur Marshall not being re-signed and going to Washington, and then you lose McMahon the way he was, and then you got, age catches up. You got, Walter retires, Fensick retires. Ditka misuses Todd Bell after he comes back from the holdout in 85. Same with Al Harris. And you got egos and you lose Buddy Ryan. You trade Willie Gault. There's so many things that just had to go wrong for them not to win multiple championships, and they all went wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should have definitely won about another 2 championships in that era. I mean, that would have such a glorious time to be a Bear. I mean, that's the time that's when I got into the Bears and into football. Well, that time, and it was such a glorious time to be a Bears fan. Because we were so competitive. But then again, it's like you just said, Dan, it was like heartbreaking as well. Like them playoff losses, what we had in the late 80s to Washington and I was so heartbreaking. But I never think Jim McMahon were the same after that cheap shot from Green Bay. I think that really, really sort of put him back, and I don't think he was ever the same player, really.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's unfortunate. I didn't ask Jim that because, I mean, it's kind of insulting to a guy that still made a couple of Sports Illustrated covers with some 350-yard performances later with Philly and stuff, and was comeback player of the year. So, I mean, he did some good stuff. He led Minnesota to a division championship in 93 and beat the Bears twice, by the way. But yeah, he wasn't the same guy. Like he really limited his arm to a certain extent when he had a big arm early on. But the most disheartening thing about that is like if you go back and you watch 87 week 1, so Jim got hurt in I think week 12 of 86, and he doesn't come back to like week 5 or 6 of 87 against Tampa. So he's out for almost a full calendar year, literally almost a full calendar year. And, Doug Flutie lost the playoff game. And then the next year they drafted Harbaugh number 1. So you've got Harbaugh. You still have Steve Fuller. But Mike Tomczak starts opening night. It's a Monday night game. The Giants have just won the Super Bowl. And they beat Denver, beat them by 19 points. And they're coming back to Soldier Field to show us that they're the real champs. The Bears fucking beat them into oblivion that night. They sacked Phil Simms like 9 times and then sacked Rutledge a few times too. And even with Mike Tomczak, they were scoring. They're sacking him. And that game in 87, you're like, oh man, the 85 Bears are back. Even though it's 87, like this team is ferocious again. And then they had that fucking strike. And that intensity never came back after the strike. And then Ditka called the strike players the spare Bears. He called them the real Bears at that time. And he lost the locker room, according to Otis Wilson. And they never were the same again after that. It's quite
weird that you bring up that strike season up, Dan, because Sean Payton played a quarterback for the Bears in the strike season. Well, he actually ended up playing over here in the UK in the late 80s for a team called the Leicester Panthers. So I actually stood next to him on the sideline because I used to do like the chains for our club, when it was a senior team playing. And so I actually stood next to the guy, and I think he got asked a few times about his time in Britain, but he was always a bit coy about it. So it's a bit weird you brought that up, Dan. So I was just thinking about it as you were saying all that. I'm thinking, oh yeah, man, I remember Sean Payton over here. And very weird.
That's crazy.
Sean Payton was a scab, not to be political, but he crossed the line.
A scab.
He was a replacement player. The players were on strike.
And right.
Yeah, he broke the strike.
He broke the strike?
He was one of the guys that crossed the picket line and was a replacement player. But there were a lot of if you contrast the 82 strike, all the players are hand and fist united. So they had to miss 9 games. I think they played 9 games, so they missed, I guess, 7. But they ended up extending the playoff format that year too, because there were just 9 games. Pardon me. But in 87, you had some real players like Danny White with Dallas, just a couple of players that had real big names at the time that crossed the picket line. That didn't happen in 82. So that led, because they had 3 replacement games, and then they just had to settle and acquiesce and get them back because people were crossing the line. But yeah, Sean Payton was one of those at first.
Wow, that you just totally brought up memory lane for me, thinking about that strike season as a kid and just being so upset that we got all these scabs, whatever you want to call them, coming in the game, and we're like, this is the year we're going to win the Super Bowl again, and now we're watching Sean Payton throw the football for us. It's like, who is this guy?
Yeah, we had 2 players. There may have been more, but off the top of my head, he had 2 players that remained Bears after that. One being Glenn Kozlowski, good special teams player, and a lineman that we had that ended up being our left tackle for a few years in the early 90s when Jim Covert was finished, Wojciechowski. I can't remember his name anymore, his first name anymore, but or at least at this moment.
Was it Dan Wojciechowski? No.
I don't recall, but yeah, he played with the Bears, I think, until 92. He was there the whole time Ditka was still there. And if you go back and watch that Washington playoff game, the second one, not the one Flutie lost, but the Bears had a 14-0 lead. Yeah. It's the windshield is -8. They're at Soldier Field. It's revenge. They beat us the year before. We're, fucking 14-2, and they come in our place and beat us because we didn't have our quarterback. Well, next year we've got our quarterback. We've got Jim McMahon, and we're up 14-0. But on the second touchdown pass, the one he throws to Ron Morris, he gets hit in the shoulder, and like Jim said on the podcast, I shouldn't have played the rest of the game. But he didn't want to like go out and be hurt and like have people say like, oh, McMahon's always hurt. He just wanted to play because he could gut through it, but he ended up hurting the team because his shoulder was hurting so badly after that hit. But he spotted him 14 points. And next thing you know, Doug Williams is tying the game. It's just unbelievable. And even the year before, the defense, they made Jay Schrader had the game of his life. Just kept beating the blitz. It was awful.
Is that the game?
Chris, I'm sorry. It's so late where you are. I apologize
No,
for
no,
rambling.
no, mate. No, because I brought it up. Anyway, that's the game where Darryl Green had that massive big kick return, didn't he, for them?
Yeah.
That's the game, isn't it? But also, just going on about Jim McMahon. One of the best stories I heard about him is when they played against the Raiders, and it was called the body bag game, where Jim McMahon got hit that hard that he was pissing blood. They took him to hospital and they said, look, we're going to have to remove a part of your kidney or something, but if we do, you'll never play again. And he said, fuck it, don't do it. And he got over it and played the following year. So I love Jim McMahon. He's like the Jim Morrison of NFL football.
Me too, man. Me too.
I showed my girlfriend last night the Rolling Stone cover, and where Jim's on it, and it says Chicago's rock and roll quarterback. So it's ironic you compared him to Jim Morrison. But with that kidney, he continued to play for a couple of plays and then suddenly couldn't catch his breath at all. He was so winded, he couldn't speak. And they were like, dude, you got to go out of the game. Like, he wasn't wanting to leave the game then. So he goes to the locker room, and like you said, he's pissing like this orange or this red, purple looking urine. So they determined he had a lacerated kidney.
Scary.
Yeah. And like, I asked him this on the podcast. He said, no, that's bullshit. But when we beat Washington in the playoffs in '84, Jim was at the game, of course, and was dressed in his off the field attire. But at halftime, they speculated if the Bears, or maybe this was I think it was it was either that one or the San Francisco championship game. But CBS speculated if the Bears make it to the Super Bowl, McMahon is going to be back for the Super Bowl. And asked him on the podcast, he's like, "Fuck that! There's no way I wouldn't have been there."
Right.
Oh. Well, guys, that being said, we have to wrap this up. We got some questions here. Vernon Roseman is wondering if we remember the Fog Bowl. I
Absolutely.
do.
Oh yeah, I do.
I'm sure Dan does.
Yes.
I do.
But guys, we got to wrap this up because we have on Bears Country Podcast channel, we have Last Call at Hallis Hall coming up at 10:00 p.m. Eastern time, and just
it's already 10:02 though. So
well, it says we're 2 minutes behind here. So we want to thank everybody on the Barroom Network. Thank you, the Barroom Network, for having us on your Monday night show. This is amazing. We appreciate you from here at Bears Country Podcast. We want to thank everyone in chat. Thank you very much, Chris. You're such an amazing guest, such an amazing Bears fan overseas. I know it's late. You have to get to bed. Thank you very much for coming on with us.
It's just a quick one. It's just been an absolute blast to talk to you, Mr. Shorty. Anytime you want me on, I'm always up there to come on to your show. And Dan, I fucking love you, man. You're one of the reasons why I first started watching the Barroom Network.
somehow I'm muted.
I can hear you.
I can't hear what anybody's saying now.
It's all bad anyway.
That's okay. We can hear what you're saying.
But
I'm sorry, Chris. I can't hear anybody now.
All right.
Well, we're wrapping it up anyway, Dan. So thank you all from the Barroom Network. We appreciate you here on Bears Country Podcast. If you want to hear more of this, head on over to Bears Country Podcast for the Last Call at Hallis Hall. We'll wrap up. We're going to have Kenny Ray on from chat over there, and we're going to bring in your questions from chat and kind of involve everyone from chat. So thank you very much for coming and joining us on this inspiring loss against the Vikings. That's a good way to say it, right?
It is.
So
we go.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dan. We'll see you over at Bears Country Podcast for Last Call at Hallis Hall. And ready? 1, 2, 3. Bears!
Bears! See you later, Chris.
See you later, mate. Take care, buddy.